Hello ladies and gentlemen of the world. Welcome back to my channel, but if you're new to my channel, then welcome. My name is Zach Jones. A few months back I did a couple of PowerPoint presentations, and since then I've done a few more on them. The first one was animals that are at risk of extinction, but then I also did about 20 animals of Great Britain. I also did 14 animals of Asia, 18 animals of Africa. I recently did 10 animals of the polar regions, but now today I'm going to be doing my very first ever PowerPoint presentation. It is 15 predators of South America. Now, I'm going to start with probably the most legendary of them all, the jaguar. The jaguar is the largest of the big cats in the Americas. A fully grown male can grow to be about 2 meters long, be 2 times heavier than me, and has canine teeth the length of my index finger. And they are, pound for pound, probably one of the second most powerful cats of all time, or third most powerful cat. Jaguars are found in Central and South America and some parts of Mexico, but I'll get to that bit later. The jaguar is known as a master of the shadows, which means that it's an animal that's good at not being seen, but also they're very unusual among the cats. I mean, like tigers and fishing cats, jaguars do love water. They spend a lot of their time in and around water. It's where they can go to keep cool during the heat of the day, but it's also somewhere where they can hunt, because jaguars aren't fussy eaters and they will eat pretty much anything they can eat. Fish, monkeys, peccary pigs, tapirs, which are their favourite prey, but also in the water they can hunt things like anacondas, crocodiles, caimans. So basically nowhere is safe from this big cat. And how they kill their prey is actually a bit of a shocker, because while many big cats tend to kill their prey by going for the throat to suffocate it, the jaguar, because it has the most powerful bite of any big cat, and that's all down to how it kills its prey. So the jaguar kills its prey by biting right through the back of the skull and into the brain of its prey. As you can see from the skull there, it has enormous canine teeth and very thick, bulky head. And of course, it can even bite right through the thick skulls of wild pigs like peccaries, and even an animal as big as a tapir. Of course, as I mentioned before about jaguars being very difficult to see, of course, one of the main reasons for that are they are a master of the shadows, which means they're experts at not being seen, but also they are very rare and quite endangered, because main reasons for that are habitat loss. Like, we are cutting down a lot of the forests and grasslands that they rely on to make way for plantations, towns, and also farming. But of course, for me, the worst thing that is bringing jaguars to extinction is conflict with cattle ranchers, because jaguars out near ranches, because there's not a lot of prey for them around, because their natural prey is quite often killed by ranchers, and so jaguars resort to attacking cattle, and this of course angers the ranchers, who just take out their guns and go out and shoot them in retaliation. But of course that a lot of the time that just doesn't work, but there are people working to stop these conflicts with things like putting bells on the cattle, so the jaguars won't go for them, and they'll just move off and find something else. And Another thing I haven't mentioned is jaguars, like all members of the cat family, are solitary throughout much of their lives, but a male and a female will only interact when they mate and produce offspring, and the female will have usually 2 or 3 cubs, which she will raise till about a year or 2 old and ready to fend for themselves. And with the jaguars being endangered, they are at risk of extinction, but they are starting to make a comeback, especially in places like the Pantanal in Brazil, which is the largest wetland on Earth, and that's said to be the best place in the world to see a jaguar. You know, I've never been before, but I have seen documentaries about it, and it is definitely the best place to see a jaguar. And one way we can help protect these beautiful cats is with breeding populations in captivity, working with people to stop the human-wildlife conflict with ranchers, but also working with WWF, who are working to preserve the habitats they live in, and also buying eco-friendly products that are of no risk to their habitat. This is the range of the jaguar. As you can see, they once spread right up into the southern states of North America, but of course they have been lost in vast quantities of their range, but they are, as I mentioned earlier, they are starting to make a comeback, especially because they have reportedly been seen in Mexico over the last few years, and even slowly starting to spread back into the United States. Now, the next animal I'm going to show you is probably my favourite South American bird and one of the most legendary of all. It is the harpy eagle. Now, the harpy eagle is without doubt the largest eagle on the planet. A fully grown female can have a wingspan as long as the front door of your house, and they can be, as you can see, they can be quite tall, and they have talons longer and sharper than the claws of a grizzly bear. In fact, the heaviest harpy eagle ever weighed was over 9 kilograms, which is about as heavy as a sack of potatoes. So they are very, very big. Of course, their main prey are things like monkeys and sloths, but they also will prey on reptiles, porcupines, and pretty much anything they can catch. I mean, they're known as wolves of the sky because of the amount of large prey they can take, but also they're rarely seen on the forest floor. In fact, to some of you, the harpy eagle may seem familiar because the reason for that is it was the inspiration for Headmaster of Hogwarts Albus Dumbledore's phoenix, Fawkes, in Harry Potter. And harpy eagles have one chick every 2 years, and the chick will stay with its parents for a good couple of years before it's ready to leave and find its own territory. And of course, harpy eagle will always nest in the highest tree or in the jungle, because that's where they live. They live in untouched rainforests, far from where human beings live. And they always go for the tallest tree in their whole territory, which actually sprouts right up out of the canopy, so they can get a bird's eye view. So they choose spots where they can see their prey, and they've got a good view over all the areas of the monkeys and sloths and other things they like to eat, moving, but they themselves are still well hidden. And unfortunately, harpy eagles are now one of the rarest and most vulnerable birds on the planet. I mean, people can spend their entire lives in South and Central American rainforests and never come across a harpy eagle. And one of the main reasons for that is that they prefer to live in way out in the middle of nowhere where they are undisturbed by humans, but also there's habitat loss because we are cutting and burning down the forests that they rely on. And more and more people expand into their territories, it's meaning there's less and less space for the harpy eagles to roam. And to me, that is absolutely heartbreaking. Because there are ways to protect them, like with breeding populations in captivity, but also working to stop the destruction of the rainforests that they rely on. And so hopefully in 20 to 30 years' time we could save this icon of South America from extinction, and if we can, to me that would be a real bonus in wildlife conservation. Because this here is their range. They're found throughout in many parts of Central and South America. Now, the next animal I'm going to show you is the largest of its kind and also my favourite of its kind. It is the green anaconda. Now, the green anaconda is the largest snake on the planet. When I say the largest, I mean a fully grown female can grow to be 9 metres in length and weigh 550 pounds. So she can grow as long as a bus and be heavier than me. And they mostly live in like the jungles and wetlands of Central and South America. And of course, one thing that has always fascinated me about the green anaconda is that unlike most other reptiles, the green anaconda gives birth to live young, which is very unusual in reptiles. Because as you can see, their patterning is a beautiful green colour. I mean, it gives them very good camouflage down in the water where they ambush their prey, but also hide from potential predators. As you can see here, the anaconda has some very sharp teeth. They're all like impossibly thick and sharp needles. And there's 2 rows on the bottom jaw, and there's 1 row on the bottom jaw, and 2 sets on the upper jaw, which means that once it's actually got a hold of prey, it is not going to be letting go. Unlike many snakes that kill their prey using venom, the green anaconda is a constrictor, which means it wraps the coils of its body around its prey, and then it will squeeze and squeeze, and every time its prey breathes out, the snake just clenches more and more and more and more, until eventually there's no lung space left and the animal suffocates. Or even potentially they are strong enough that they could potentially burst the internal organs of their prey. And then they swallow their prey in one mouthful, as all snakes do because they can't chew their food. How they do it is they basically dislocate their entire jaw and walk it across their prey. And when I say that about their prey, I mean an anaconda can feed on all kinds of things. It can feed on baby crocodiles to to capybara, which are the world's